there's a yearning for more or whatever it is hard to make changes just to make changes, just to pacify something.
I don't know what y'all want me to say, man. I'm tired of this, man, and I want to play better.
The New York Jets have a huge problem. I mean, I would have never imagined that the storyline of this season would be to try to play as well as you possibly can so Aaron Rodgers could come back in December and take you to the promised land. But here we are, and it's not necessarily going so well. A lot of this storyline seems eerily reminiscent of last year, but I think it's significantly different, and I guess I have the unpopular take here. So if you disagree, you can let me know in the comment section, because I don't think this is entirely Zach Wilson's fault. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop, like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! Leading up to the season, I spammed predictions at you guys consistently. Michael Porter Jr. needed over 5.5 rebounds in his season debut. Tyreek Hill just needed a touchdown, and Steph Curry just needed 1 point. Shout out to those that tailed. For those of you guys that were able to make money, we're giving away our picks for free all season long for the NBA and NFL on my Instagram at @TheFlightMike. And right now, when you use promo code Mikerophone on Prize Picks, they'll match your deposit up until $100. Thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Last year was a nightmare season for Zach Wilson from hell. This entire New York Jets team seemed ready to compete for a Super Bowl, and the only individual that was holding them back was their starting QB. That was selected with the second overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. It was supposed to be a very deep NFL draft, by the way. Currently is looking pedestrian to say the least, at least in regards to the quarterbacks. And unfortunately, after starting out hot, the New York Jets finished off really slow. But the way they went about that season was significantly different than the way that they're going about it now. Last year, you would see moments where Zach Wilson would get benched, then reinserted into the lineup, then benched once again. And through it all, there was a fundamental understanding that if Zach Wilson was to become the guy, he needed some time to sit back and learn from someone else. While the Jets performed significantly better with Mike White under center, they still weren't good enough to make it to the playoffs. This past offseason, they felt like they had the solution to all of their problems, trading for Aaron Rodgers, who would unfortunately tear his Achilles 75 seconds in the New York Jets season. And this is where the script writers in the NFL just went off. Aaron Rodgers would get an Achilles surgery almost immediately, and once again, Zach Wilson was tasked with the responsibility of making sure the New York Jets performed well enough so once Aaron Rodgers would return, they had a fighting chance to make it into the wild card. So far, it is not looking good for the New York Jets. If you look at their chances so far, they are on the bubble. They're third in the AFC East, which is a very competitive division, but they have the Bengals, Bills, Colts, Raiders, and Chargers ahead of them. And the last 2 games that they played were absolute must wins versus the Chargers, who were not only ahead of them, but it was done so in a week where everyone else in their division lost, and the Raiders, who are also currently ahead of them. And they got absolutely decimated versus the LA Chargers, and we made a video on that. But against the Raiders, this is a team with an interim head coach and a 4th round starting QB. I mean, with all due respect, there are much more difficult opponents than the Chargers and the Raiders. And when you look ahead, you're going to see for yourself. This is a team that needs to face off against the Bills, then the Dolphins, then the Falcons, then the Texans, then the Dolphins once again. But assuming that Aaron Rodgers can make his debut on December 3rd against the Falcons, this is a team that needs to beat the Bills and the Dolphins with Zach Wilson under center. And there's a bunch of questions following their game versus the Las Vegas Raiders, which they lost 12-16 thanks to a heroic defensive effort by Tyler Conklin deflecting the ball out of Garrett Wilson's hands on a Hail Mary. Is Zach Wilson the guy that should be leading this team? They potentially pivot to Trevor Siemian. And if you listen to what they're saying in the New York Jets building, it seems like there's no interest in moving on from Zach Wilson, to the ire of New York Jets fans. I mean, Robert Saleh had this to say.
When speaking about Zach, I get it. There's a yearning for more or whatever it is, but I feel like he played a good game yesterday. He obviously he'll admit that he'd want that interception back, but it is hard to make changes just to make changes, just to pacify something. And especially when someone's not deserving. If he was deserving of it, I got you. Like, let's change something. But and that's really for every position. That's a coach, that's a player, that's defensive play. It doesn't matter. You're always trying to look at ways to make sure that everyone is operating at full go, and to say that one person is the reason for everyone failing, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. But again, it's just one man's opinion.
So I know this is going to catch some people off guard. Zach Wilson is performing pretty well. If you look at his statistics throughout 9 games, Zach Wilson has a 59.8% completion percentage, which, by the way, is a career high for him. I know it sounds insane, but that's a career high for Zach Wilson. He's thrown 5 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He's fumbled 6 times in the last 3 games. So is it really fair to say that he is playing pretty well? Well, if you look at his last game, Zach Wilson has had 263 passing yards off a 59% completion percentage. It's not like Garrett Wilson is suffering the same way that Davante Adams was when Jimmy Garoppolo was under center. He's finding Garrett Wilson. I mean, Garrett Wilson is having a remarkable season if you look at it. He's had at least 7 receptions in the past 4 games. He's targeted many times throughout these games, and he's having a very prolific season. I mean, just take a look for yourself. Yet Garrett Wilson is saying this.
I don't know what y'all want me to say, man. I'm tired of this, man, and I want to play better. The whole offense wants to play better. You know, we're just saying what we was trying to do. You know, we come out every week trying to, you know, make it happen. And, you know, it's frustrating.
Now, why is that? What is the problem? Personally, I don't think Zach Wilson is the problem. I don't think he's a top tier QB yet. I think he could get there based upon some of the throws that I'm seeing. I mean, this one particular play isn't going to show up on the stat sheet. And it's plays like this that make me feel like Zach Wilson one day will be a Pro Bowl quarterback in the NFL if you're patient with him. But the problem is that the New York Jets don't have time for Zach Wilson to develop into this quarterback. They need wins, and they need them now if they want any chance at all for Aaron Rodgers to come back in December and lead them in a playoff push, which, by the way, in of itself is lunacy. I've never seen someone recover from an Achilles tear that quickly. It'd be a hell of a story, and I'd love to see it. So with that being said, I don't think this season is Zach Wilson's fault as much as previous seasons were, and I credit Robert Saleh for thinking long-term here, because I do think Zach Wilson's going to develop into that type of quarterback one day. The real issue here, in my opinion, is once again a man that has had a very difficult year last year as well, and that's Nathaniel Hackett. This one clip from Nathaniel Hackett went absolutely viral, where he was dialing up a play call for 3rd and short against the Las Vegas Raiders. You could see Aaron Rodgers, who also has a headset on, shaking his head, disagreeing with Nathaniel Hackett completely. And if you even look at some of the play designs that Nathaniel Hackett has, a lot of it is questionable to say the least. I mean, rolling out to the left and having all of these wide receivers right next to each other and stopping on their routes is essentially depending on Zach Wilson to improvise when he's already in danger. So given that this is the situation, what should the New York Jets do? Well, clearly, if they want any chance of success at all, they need to take away play calling duties from Nathaniel Hackett. Who should be the play caller? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. My top contender for any type of play calling duties would be Rob Calabrese, who is currently the quarterback's coach for the New York Jets. Anyone would be an upgrade over Nathaniel Hackett at this point. I don't really want to come off as someone that hates on Nathaniel Hackett. I just don't think he's good at play calling. Historically, he's been the offensive coordinator for teams that succeed at running the ball, which, by the way, the last 3 touchdowns that the New York Jets have had have all come from Breece Hall touchdowns. I don't think he's doing anything to complement the rushing attack that the New York Jets have. At the end of the day, I think looking at Zach Wilson and saying this is all his fault is a very lazy take. He's playing behind the worst offensive line in the NFL, handicapped with a suspect play caller who even Aaron Rodgers was caught disagreeing with, and through it all is still finding ways to get Garrett Wilson going and hasn't been nearly as anemic as last year. But let me know in the comment section down below if you disagree with me. I mean, this is something that I don't expect you guys to agree with me. I just feel like it's very lazy to sit back and say, oh, it's all Zach Wilson's fault. Because I don't think Trevor Siemian will be able to produce much better results, but I do think he should be elevated from the practice squad just in case. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this, man. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.